Hi, everyone. Welcome to SNAPSHOTS, a physical education standards implementation video series created through a partnership with the Minnesota Department of Education, MnShape, and MnDape. I'm Mary Thyssen-Milder, and I serve as the State Physical Education Specialist at the Minnesota Department of Education. The 2018 Minnesota Academic Standards in Physical Education were developed by physical educators from across the state. The Minnesota Department of Education facilitated that process and then formed a physical education standards leadership team made up of the co-chairs of the MDE Physical Education Standard Development Team, executive board members of the Minnesota Society of Health and Physical Education, or MnShape, leaders in adaptive physical education representing MnDape, and representatives of higher education. The MDE Physical Education Standards Leadership Team designed a 3-year implementation assistance plan to support Minnesota physical educators as they planned for implementation of the standards in the 2021 to 22 school year. The focus for the first year was to get to know the standards by breaking them down by individual standard and benchmark, reviewing the academic language and learning progressions within them, and then deconstructing and building bundles. In 2019, we were in the middle of the second year of professional development when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and that put a dramatic pause on the training plan. We are now 22 months later. The COVID-19 pandemic has delayed the implementation of the 2018 academic standards of physical education until the 2023-24 school year. Our plan is to continue with the Year 2 Professional Development Series. However, it's clear to us that the pandemic has impacted our teaching dramatically and that refreshers in the foundational topics we covered in Year 1 may be needed. As a result, this video series was created to provide a short snapshot of them. It's the intention of each video to be a short, concise review and be available for a teacher online at any time that's convenient on either the MDE or MnShape websites. A teacher may watch them in order or go directly to a desired topic. They can be viewed individually or on teacher teams. This slide identifies the videos available. A short introduction to the series provides an overview. Then we begin with personalizing the standards, which is broken down into 3 short videos that review the importance of standards, introduces the new Minnesota physical education standards, and breaks the standards down one by one. Videos on academic language, learning progressions, deconstructing benchmarks, and bundling benchmarks are also available. The focus of this video is bundling benchmarks in the 2018 Minnesota Academic Standards in Physical Education. The objectives of this video include identifying the reasons why we bundle benchmarks, identify the process of bundling, and provide examples of bundles the benchmarks in the 2000 Minnesota Academic Standards in Physical Education. Contrary to academic standards in mathematics or ELA that have had required state benchmarks for some time, our current physical education standards were identified and required by the state, but local school districts develop their own benchmarks, curriculum, and assessments. The new 2018 physical education standards identify required grade level benchmarks for the first time. This definitely led to questions from concerned teachers. This slide shows an example question from a middle school teacher concerned at the number of benchmarks that were identified for grades 6, 7, and 8. Oh my gosh, Mary, how am I going to manage all the benchmarks? There are 57 benchmarks for each grade level. How am I going to do that when I only see the students for one semester each year? It was questions such as these that led the MDE Physical Education Leadership Team to develop that 3-year implementation plan I showed you earlier to assist in answering that question. The answer has specifically designed steps. First, we spend time developing that shared understanding of standards and benchmarks and identify the academic language and the learning progressions within them. Once that's done, we can begin to identify the defining parts of each benchmark through deconstruction, and then get teachers to begin to work together to bundle them. Once teachers began this process of bundling, we have found that the levels of stress and anxiety are significantly reduced because teachers now can see the possibilities of meeting the benchmarks in their programs. Benchmarks are not intended to be taught or assessed one at a time or in isolation. Therefore, one helpful approach to beginning the translation of benchmarks into curriculum instruction is to bundle them together, arranging them in groups for instruction. Bundling helps students see connections between concepts, brings coherence to instruction, and can allow more efficient use of instructional time. Within and across content areas, the curriculum can be arranged in bundles so that units of instruction can be built using approaches such as themes, authentic processes, problems-based learning, essential questions, or big ideas. Done well, integrated or bundled instruction and curriculum supports students in developing knowledge and skills in more than one standard at the same time. This is one idea of how to describe the process of bundling from the MDE Physical Education Leadership Team. The analogy of bundling is similar to making a salad. Think about your favorite salad. Is it a Caesar salad, a Cobb salad, a taco salad? They all may be called salads, but many ingredients come together to make them. Think about benchmarks as individual ingredients in a salad, and that salads are a bundle. The number of ingredients in any salad can vary from a few to many. It's the same for bundles of benchmarks. It is not feasible, nor is it best practice, to teach one benchmark at a time. Therefore, we combine or bundle benchmarks to create cohesive chunks of content that will be taught in integrated or connected ways. This is an example of a very simple third grade physical education bundle. We asked the teachers to start with the benchmark in Standard 1, then find one complementary or cohesive benchmark across the remaining 4 standards. This slide shows the final product or bundle. From Standard 1, students perform a variety of jumps. Add a benchmark from Standard 2 while applying speed and force. Add another from Standard 3 and be able to define impact of jumping on their hearts and lungs. Add another from Standard 4 by working by themselves responsibly and safely. And finally, add another from Standard 5 and identify what they find hard to do and what they like best. So this bundle would read that students perform a variety of jumps by working by themselves responsibly and safely, applying speed and force. Students will be able to define the impact of jumping on their hearts and lungs and identify what they find hard to do and what they like best. Remember, this is just one way that benchmarks can be bundled. Here's an example of a 6th grade potential bundle. Starting with Standard 1, when deconstructed, the condition to meet benchmark 6.1.7.1 is through an outdoor activity. So we need to build a bundle that concepts work together for any outdoor activity. For this bundle, a student would need to demonstrate correct technique for the basic skills for an outdoor activity and describe the basic skills and tactics needed for participation while using equipment and facilities appropriately and safely with the teacher's guidance. They would be able to identify barriers related to maintaining a healthy lifestyle through that activity and make appropriate decisions regarding physical activity based on the weather, level of activity due to the conditions, or abilities to ensure the safety of self and others. Finally, they would be able to identify the relationship between participation in physical activity and stress reduction. The beauty about bundling is that any outdoor activity would be able to flow through this bundle. For example, let's say cross-country skiing. Students will be able to demonstrate correct technique for basic skills and describe tactics for cross-country skiing such as conducting a herringbone or a V for going downhill. They will be able to describe barriers related to the activity, such as no snow, or make appropriate decisions about weather, such as the temperature or clothing needed. They will be able to utilize skis and poles appropriately, including carrying the equipment safely when not in use, and identify how this activity could release stress. Here's an example of a high school bundle. Starting with Standard 1, a student will demonstrate competency and specialized skills in each of the health-related fitness components: muscular strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, and cardiorespiratory fitness. Deconstructing this benchmark, a student would be able to demonstrate competency in specialized skills of any physical activity. For example, let's use yoga. A student will demonstrate competency in specialized skills in yoga that demonstrate each of the health-related fitness components, skills such as the lotus, the swan, the tree, or downward dog. They will use movement concepts and principles of force, motion, rotation to analyze and perform for a self-selected yoga skill and design a practice plan to improve performance for that skill and justify how the components of the plan will address the areas of concern. They will participate in moderate to vigorous aerobic or muscle and bone strengthening yoga several times per week and exhibit proper etiquette, respect for others, and teamwork while engaging in it. Finally, they will be able to analyze the health benefits of yoga. To continue the salad analogy, just as there are many ways to make a salad, there are many different salad dressings. The salad dressing is the activity to be utilized to meet the benchmark identified in the bundle. In the last example, yoga was a salad dressing, but it could have been many other physical activities. The rule is, don't start with the activity. Start with what do I or we want our students to learn. Having a unit in mind or a theme can start the bundling process. For example, in physical education, there can be target game bundles that cross all 5 physical education standards. Theoretically, most target game activities, such as archery or bocce ball, can be utilized as the activity to run through that bundle. The salad dressing or activity makes the same salad appear and taste different. Along with each activity comes different equipment. Teachers may use benchmarks over and over again, varying activities and equipment. Physical activities or equipment can be rebundled in lots of different combinations of salads. Now let's explore how to conduct a bundling activity. When you want to do this in person, go to the MinShape website in the MDE resources section. You will find bundling pages already prepared for you. Print out each standard on different colors of paper. This makes it easier for sorting. Then cut apart all the standards and benchmarks for each grade level into strips and place them into separate envelopes for each grade level. Have chart paper, tape, and Post-its on hand. In regards to the room setup, provide enough table space for participants to work in groups. As we said earlier, the ultimate way to conduct this process is to work with teams of teachers to develop bundles because it provides them opportunities to share their thoughts and rationale. However, if there are social distancing conditions, have teachers begin this process working alone at their identified working tables. Give each participant a packet of the strips of standards and benchmarks for a grade level in an envelope. Give them a piece of flip chart paper, pack of Post-its, a marker, and tape. The first step is to ask each participant to lay out all standards and benchmarks on their tables by color code and review them. Step 2 is to identify benchmarks that would work well together and could be assessed for mastery in a unit of study and begin placing them together on the chart paper. Step 3 is to group the strips together on flip chart paper. Use Post-its to note the unifying reason for the bundle. For example, theme, big idea, or project-based assessment, post all chart papers on the wall, and have participants do a gallery walk to observe the bundles during the activity. Give participants the opportunity to ask each other clarifying questions or share an aha that they had during the activity. This is an example for the jump rope bundle mentioned earlier, color-coded by standard with jump roping identified as the activity. Bundling is not the end game. Developing performance outcomes and criteria for evaluation, as well as the scope and sequence, comes next. Bundling may also help teachers do some thinking about how to communicate with families about what is being taught, how the benchmarks fit together into lessons and units, and how the learning will be assessed. Here is an example of where we're going next. This slide shows an example performance outcome for the jump rope bundle in this presentation. The bolded portions draw attention to the content of the benchmarks, but what is also important is that the performance outcome is written so that it's easy to understand how a student would meet the outcome. Students will use correct force and speed to perform 5 different jump rope tricks chosen from a set of 10 options, including jumps of varying levels of difficulty. They will use these experiences to create their own definition of cardiorespiratory fitness and recognize the effects consecutive jumping has on the heart and lungs. They will demonstrate responsible behaviors by remaining on task and following the safety protocols, and they will reflect on their personal experiences with challenge and enjoyment. Here are a few things to remember as we proceed. This is a long-term process. Curriculum design and implementation is not about being perfect. Curriculum design is more about the process, not the product. Curriculum is a verb, not a noun. And as we all have experienced, curriculum is impacted by the day-to-day unexpected changes. I encourage you all to utilize the MDE Standards portal as you do this work. This portal was created by the members of the MDE Academic Standards team to assist schools as they go through this complicated process of building standards-based systems. Concepts from the portal are integrated into the physical education professional development trainings. Please utilize this as a resource for yourself and school teams as you go through the standard implementation and review processes. This completes our exploration of bundling benchmarks, part of the SNAPSHOTS Physical Education Standards Implementation video series. I remind you that the video series covers topics covered in the first year of standard implementation trainings sponsored by MDE, MnShape, and MnDAPE. Special thanks to the members of the MDE Physical Education Leadership Team on the development of the content and their continued guidance in supporting quality physical education in Minnesota. For more information on professional development opportunities, stay tuned to the MDE Physical Education webpage or the MnShape website.